All right, welcome everyone to Money Matters. We are going to have a very, very exciting episode today. It is Sunday, 3 p.m. And just like in any of our previous Money Matters episodes, we feature amazing speakers who share their personal experiences, their personal thoughts and opinions on all aspects of personal finance management, business finance management, and just money in general. I think it's a topic that can be related to anyone and everyone from all walks of life. And what I hope to provide here in the show is different perspectives so that you guys get to open up your minds and see how the rest of the world thinks and see whether there's something in each of these sessions that you can take away and improve your own money management as well. So I have had the honor to interview amazing people from all walks of life, and today's speaker is no less amazing. She's when I had the opportunity to meet up with her and have a chat with her, I was truly mind blown. It was so much of fun. I've been personally looking forward to today's session for some time, and I'm very, very excited to be able to have this conversation. So our speaker today is going to be someone who is a leading expert in the area of financial education. She knows her stuff in this area. She's actually the head of technical secretariat of the presidency at Intesa San Paulo. She's the director and curator of the Museum of Savings. You might not even know what these things mean, which is what we're going to dig into more, because it's a completely different way of looking at finance from most of you guys who view this in Malaysia. But one of the amazing things is she has done so much of research in terms of financial education and finance, and I think she has experience in the banking industry, extensive experience, and we all can learn a whole lot more from having a conversation with her. So without further ado, let me introduce on screen Joanna Palladino.
Thanks a lot for inviting me, Matura, and I'm happy to be in your talk show. Let's call it in this way. And I hope that this conversation will be useful not only for us because we are enjoying ourselves, but also for your audience.
Yes, thank you so much for making your time. You're all the way from Italy. I am so excited to have you here. You're my first guest speaker from Italy. And yeah, maybe before we dive into our topic and all the questions that I have for you, on your own words, how would you kind of like introduce yourself, or what would you say about yourself to our audiences?
You know, I'm a macro international economist with a strong background in statistics and econometrics. Actually, I didn't want to become an economist at the very beginning. That was not my dream. I was interested in neuroscience. But 40 years ago, because I'm pretty old, for someone like me that had no reference in the research field in academia, was not easy to choose such a path of study. So I decided to study economics because I wanted to find a job straight away after the degree. Fortunately, I will say fortunately this time, life went in a different direction. So I kept studying after the high school for other 11 years, as I did my master, I did my PhD, partially abroad, and I also had some experience at IMF as an international economist for some time. You can ask yourself, or your audience can ask yourself, how I end up building a museum of financial education, which is a mystery also for me, because actually it was never in my mind. And as you know, it was mainly a question of coincidence, as often happens in life. When someone asked me to build from scratch a museum fully dedicated to financial education, I really didn't know what to do. Okay, because 11 years ago, there were not such a thing. So I thought about my experience in the US and how museology has been developing overseas for decades now. So I decided to embrace this endeavor, and after 10 years, let me say, modesty aside, I can tell it has been a very successful experience, a very successful initiative. It took a lot of energy, efforts, but now we are working full regime. We have built a strong international network, and that's the reason for which I'm here with you, as well as strict liaisons with the several national institutions, and in particular with the Italian schools. So I'm very happy of this experience.
Amazing. I am so curious to know more about your journey. I know I won't be able to ask everything today.
You have to come and visit us.
Yes.
May I say something on the website that is both in Italian and in English, so even your audience from Malaysia can enter our website. There is a 36-degree virtual tour, so you can virtually enter the museum and see what is inside, the videos. You can also play with our video games, so it's just in the homepage of our museum website.
Perfect. I will drop the link to this in the description as well as the comments. So for all of you who are interested, you can check that out. I think it will be an amazing experience. I'm You went into neuroscience. I never thought that was where you wanted to start, and then economics, and now you have kind of like extensively had an
Actually,
experience.
I found the point of contact, but I will tell eventually at the end of this conversation.
Okay. Now even I'm curious for that. I'm just curious from your years of experience and all of that. Do you think the younger generation, because my audiences are mainly youngsters who are in school right now, do you think are we heading in the right direction in terms of financial literacy, or is this generation lacking a lot in terms of financial literacy? What is your personal opinion?
As a museum, we run recurring surveys, mainly on people aged 18 or more. So for us, according to this survey, Gen Z, which is your generation, spend the age in the range between 18 and 23 years old, and are mainly students. We have also focused on Gen Y, which covers 24 to 39 years old, which are mainly the working group. What we can say is that there are lots of differences across the generation as for the financial literacy level. Okay, so the baby boomers are more financially literate, and then you see let's say a downward slope for the other generation, and ending to Gen Z. Gen Z is the least financially literate generation for various reasons. I mean, maybe pretty normal. They don't have experience. They are students, so they never had enough money to experience the money management in a proper way. Actually, I also studied Gen Z in one of my research on the effect of framing, on the effect of how the questions are posed in the questionnaire of financial literacy. And I found a very interesting result that the Gen Z, exactly as women, are more sensitive to the wording using in the questionnaire. So we see, for example, that if the question is in the standard way, Gen Z, people belonging to the Gen Z give the wrong answer more often if with respect to the case in which the question is provided in an alternative way. What I mean by alternative? I mean a more involving, a more realistic question, a less abstract question. So there is also, when we measure the level of financial literacy of Gen Z, we have to keep in mind that they are wording sensitive. So the wording of the question is important, and this is quite an interesting result. And also, I ran another service for a different purpose, and we saw that Gen Z has a higher tendency to invest in cryptocurrencies or crypto assets.
Yep.
Then the other generation, especially the Generation X and the baby boomers, that are much more reluctant and precocious to invest on that stuff.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Gen Z invest in crypto assets, but their level of knowledge of diversification and risk is very, very poor. So they seem to be less risk averse, but without knowing very well the implication of the risk environment. So this is worrisome. I mean, I have to say that everybody can decide to invest in whatever they want, but I mean, one has to be aware of the risk associated with investment.
Yep, that's true. I would like to talk a little bit more about the framing that you mentioned, right? I completely agree. Usually, when we use certain kind of words or the way we ask questions is going to influence the audience. So, as people who provide financial education and financial services, what should we be looking into to ensure that bias doesn't exist because of how we are framing things?
Matura, I couldn't hear you well, so I don't know what to ask me.
Yes.
I understand that we want to talk about a little bit more about framing more, but I mean, I couldn't hear the full question. Sorry.
Yes. So, because framing does influence how the people that we're working with are responding and all of that. So as people who teach financial education, like Money Matters Show, and I think so many others out there, even the Museum of Savings, how can we be conscious about that framing?
Okay, one thing is true, that framing is important to understand exactly what is the level of understanding of Gen Z. Okay, so we cannot rely on standard questionnaire and say, they don't know. Maybe they know, but the question was not done in the right way. Second, we have to be nearer to Gen Z to understand what is their way of thinking, and also to use the right word so to be understood, because this is also the question. Okay, so I really think that there are a lot of differences among generations, and as a museum, we cannot provide one single product for everybody. We need to diversify, and actually we have diversified our materials, our apps, because different people understand different languages.
Yep.
Not because they speak different languages, but because understanding is something that implies different mechanics also. So from this point of view, there is no one single recipe. One size doesn't fit all. Okay, so we need to keep it in mind.
Yep, very nice, very nice. So as the younger generation, I think we are discussing about Gen Zs more. What are the areas that we should be addressing? Because teaching, getting financial literacy to Gen Zs is something everybody knows it needs to be done and all of that. But many times we kind of get confused, like with students, where do you even get started? Do you go into the technicalities, or do you teach the values of money? What, in your opinion, should be the things that we should be teaching or guiding on Gen Zs with regards to money?
First of all, I have to say one thing. One has to realize that the Gen Z belong to a different generation with respect to the other generation, because they were born in a period of abundance. And this makes a lot of difference, okay? And I speak for the Italian society, but I have the impression that this is something that applies to other countries, especially in the Western Hemisphere. No? So most of the Gen Z people are spoiled by their family. And this is due to the fact that there is a reduction in the fertility rate in many of these countries. And kids, or youngsters, are easily considered to be a miracle, okay? So they're entitled to have everything even before start desiring it. And this is a mistake. So we need to help Gen Z to be back to desire things, okay? So especially because it's important to understand what are the limits that we have. Okay, so what is the budget? What is the budget constraint? Because previous generation, the one born in the 60s and the 70s, were less wealthy. They had to cope with the idea of a family budget constraint that most of the time was binding. It is to say, you couldn't, go out of that limit. Okay, and they had to decide what was a necessity and what was not a necessity, and also they had to learn, I would say, the hard way to work in order to get money for their expenses. This is something that most of the people in Gen Z had not experienced. Yep. And this is the problem. So we need to make a step back, help them to, especially now that we have a high inflation, that the future ahead of us is not so rosy. I think that we really need to bring this Gen Z back to understanding what limits are. And I'm not saying that it's a fault of the youngsters. It's merely a problem of the parental approach. So it's not their fault. And their parents, that maybe, they thought that this is the era of abundance. So what the heck I have to, to make my children suffer or think that there is a limitation on something. But we need to experience instead limits. And we need to make them understand what is a necessity and what is not. Not everything is a necessity. And I will say something that the one that are producing mobile phone will not agree, will not happy about it. But a new mobile phone, if it's working the old one, is not a necessity. Okay,
Yep.
so I really am pissed off when I see you outside the shops that are selling new model of iPhone, smartphone, or whatever, because that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Most of the time, iPhone that are all the 7 years, they work.
Yep.
They work very well. So there is no need to spend more money on that.
That's true. That's true.
And I think that we needed to help Gen Z to learn another lesson. Let me say that. And this is the lesson about talent. Okay. To have talent, if you have it, because I mean, most of the people has no talent, it's not enough.
Yep.
Everything we obtain in life, and also for money, this is also applies to money, is obtained with effort and perseverance. So the myth of talent, that you don't do any effort, you are rich, you are famous, whatever, has to end. Talent without studying and working is nothing. Most of the very well-known people, scholars, actors, are not talented at all. Their recipe for success is the hard work. So I really think that we have to make this clear to the Gen Z. This will help them also in terms of money management, a lot. But I have to say something so positive about Gen Z, if you let me, because I think that the Gen Z is the most motivated generation to take action against climate change, social inequalities. They want to be the leading actors for a positive change, and this is very, very good, because previous generation were less generous and much more selfish. So there are positive sides. We have to make a leverage on this side so that we can bring out the best of out of the Gen Z, which is the future, by the way.
That's true. That's true. The sense of one is, yes, they grew up in an era of abundance in a way, and because of that, that's how they have been. The parental approach has been in a way where they think they do have all of these entitlements and all of that, but at the same time, that kind of allows them to have the open-mindedness to look into, hey, maybe I can solve climate change and all of that. I believe because they did have these basic needs taken care of, that's why they're able to entertain the thought of maybe we need to look into how things are being done. Maybe climate change is something we need to look into. I think they are correlated. So to not make sure that we do not lose the passion that Gen Zs have for the climate and the planet and all of that, and at the same time making sure they have the right financial literacy in a way. What would be needed to be done? Like what, so that they do not revert back to the same old ways of like, okay, it's all mine, I'm gonna keep my money and all of that. How do we transition in a nice way so that they don't lose on the financial literacy, but at the same time they don't lose the passion for the planet and all of that?
I think that you really need to have the attitude towards learning, and Gen Z sometimes is there are not everybody, but there are also some youngsters that are full of themselves. They think they have understood life before everybody else. I really think this is wrong. I know that it seems something that comes out of a person that is for sure older than Gen Z. But I mean, we need to understand that we can learn from the other. Our life is a long learning process. We start in the school when we are kids, but even at my age and after 8 years old, we will still learning a lot. So we really need to find a cooperation among generation, and we need to see each other not as an antagonist, but as someone who's living in the same planet, and we need to find a way to cooperate. For sure, I mean, what they can do, first of all, I think that in order to be more financially literate, they have to start not studying too much. I mean, there is not too much study about it, but first of all, they have to think about their future without fear. Okay, they need to imagine themselves 5-10 years ahead. And because there is a reason for that, because to build our true self, we need the time. And it's not something that happens, as I said before, we need to work, we need the perseverance, we need the constance, and so on and so forth. And I would say to Gen Z that investing in human capital is going to be the best choice can make and the most profitable one in terms of money, even in time of inflation, okay? So even if there is inflation, you want to invest in something, invest in human capital. So this is, the basic to go ahead. And then for sure at school or in the family, you need to be exposed to some basic financial education. But the concept that you need to learn are 5. Okay. And you can do it, as I said, at school, or you can do it in family, because parents sometimes know and they can provide the right education to their kids. The concept of return, which is not simple, but you can learn. I mean, the return can be something that you can get also in early age. The concept of risk, which is very important, as I said, too many Gen Z people are buying crypto assets without knowing what is the risk. The relation between return and risk, so high return are correlated with high risk, always. Yep. There is no free lunch, okay?
Yes.
Then you have to know the concept of diversification, which is always related to risk. And it applies also not only to money, but also to real life. So maybe this is the trick. You need always to compare the rule for good money management to the rule of a good life, okay? They almost coincide most of the time.
Yep.
The other things that they have to learn is how to do a budget. As I said before, the people in the previous generation, they had to cope with the budget constraint that was binding. But budget implies to know what are the entries and the exit of your family, of your entries and the family. Eventually, if you are not a family, so you need to have a clear idea what is going on with your money. What are the entries and the exit that you have, to face every month. And then, this is very important, you need to plan ahead. As I said before, the exercise to imagine yourself in 5-10 years, it's important. If you have a desire, if you have something that you want to reach, you need to plan the path to reach whatever you desire. You will change several times, the plan, because things happen, as you know. The world is stochastic and not deterministic. There will be, several events, several shocks that will change, the road to the target. But nevertheless, if you have a target in mind, you will reach it. Much more likely than if you don't know what is your target. Yeah. And then, also you need to look for a financial independence. Financial independence for girls and for boys is very, very important. Not at early age. As I said, the investment in human capital has to be the first thing to do, but you need to know that you need to work. Okay? Yep. And actually, I know there are a lot of problems with unemployment, but the labor markets are offering incredible amount of opportunities to young people. Have cultivated the appropriate knowledge that you need to cope with the real life. So it's a question of skills, it's a question of abilities, and as you know, most of the time job offers don't get a match because the difficulty to find young workers with the right skill and attitude. So I really think that if kids and youngsters and Gen Z, they are not only kids with the Gen Z, are able now to invest in human capital and to prepare themselves for the real life, the problem with the job will not be there, and they will have a successful choice.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that is one of the areas that the generation does struggle with, which is facing the real life and the real realities of what happens. And what you have shared is brilliant things to look into to ensure that they're ready. I'm personally curious about this because you did share about the experience of the earlier generations and all of that. Personally, in your experience, what is one of the biggest, one of the money mistakes that you've made that kind of you still remember it, and what was your personal lesson from it?
Maybe the worst mistake I made was not giving me a chance. Okay, but I am a woman, so there are several elements. I mean, not stand up for myself. My career changed when I stand up for myself. So from this point of view, I think you have to have the courage of saying what you think, understanding what is your value, and also to be creative. I mean, actually, I discovered with the project of the Museum of Saving that I am very creative. I mean, I have a lot of ideas. I don't know exactly where they come from, but I mean, they come. So, and I have not to be afraid of saying what I'm thinking or what I want to reach. Most of the time, if you are passionate, if you have the right, the right approach, people will follow you. So I mean, and with enthusiasm. I mean, I know that I speak in this way also in Italian, so I'm so sorry, but I mean, this is the way that I speak usually. But I mean, the passion and enthusiasm are driver for everybody to jump on the board and start working with you in a project. The project of the Museum of Saving was very difficult. It was much more difficult than doing research in the academia where I was working. I mean, and then there was no comparison. Okay, it was a small amount of time. We had only 1 year. We had to start from scratch. There were no other reference points, so you didn't know where to start. Again, I mean, whenever you are working with a lot of enthusiasm and passion, and obviously you know the matter, you know the domain, you know the field, okay, then things are going in the right direction. That's what I learned from my experience over the last 10 years. I mean, passion, enthusiasm, competence are really making the difference. Most of the people will follow you, realizing a project that at the very beginning you thought was never, gonna be ready. So I really think that we have to learn what are our potentialities, also our limit. Okay, there are a lot of limits for sure, but we have to know ourselves in a proper way. So that's the reason for which I said that building our true self takes time. You need to start now.
That's true. Amazing. I love that. So if anyone who is watching today and they would like to, I think for Museum of Savings, I'll definitely drop the link in the description and the chat box as well. What if they want to get in touch with you or even Museum of Savings and find out more about their services? Is there anything else they should be doing other than checking out the links?
You can write us a letter. I mean, it's okay. They can browse our website because it's full of materials like videos and video game that they can play also on the web, or they can download in on their smartphone. So I mean, they can follow us. So unfortunately, we do a lot of activities and events, but in Italian because we are mainly on the Italian audience. But we also, during this month, that October is the financial literacy month in Italy. We had also a very interesting and important international conference that we organized with the Bank of Italy, and it was a conference on digitalization and financial awareness. We had several speakers from all over the world, and it was very international. Everything was in English, so I think that you could check our webpage on that because it's full of hints and suggestions. And for sure, that's something that they can do. I mean, if they speak Italian, they can follow us more strictly because I mean we have many of our activities are online. Since the pandemic, we are a phygital museum. What I want to say is that we are a physical place, but we add the online activities. And for example, in a few weeks, we will have a very nice and important festival. We call it Our Place, Your Place in the World. That is dedicated to the high school students that have to decide if following the university, following the path of studying again in the university, or entering the job market. And what we do is that we provide a 2-day event where there are a lot of testimonial people that are going to provide testimony on how they found their place in the world. And this year, the main theme, the fil rouge, is curiosity. Because we want to explain to kids that curiosity is a powerful drive for personal and professional development. But it's really a key. Curiosity is not a talent. Curiosity, you can develop curiosity because everybody is curious. Simply, most of the time we try to be, it's not polite to be curious. We need, to let them go. And I think that unfortunately it's in Italian. Maybe in the future we will do something in English, and that will be, something we can do together.
I would love to explore that for sure, and I'm sure some of our audiences may even come by today just to find out what you guys do. So yes, that was amazing. I mean, thank you so much, Joanna, for taking your time to share with us. Any last words or messages for our audiences as we end our session today?
Thanks a lot to you for the invitation, and I wish all the best for your audience.
Thank you so much. All right, and yep. So that is our session with Joanna. I think it was a quick one, but I personally enjoyed it. She actually gave so much of wisdom with regards to what you guys as Gen Z should be doing, what you should be looking into. And for the educators and parents who are watching today's session, I hope you also get to take something away about how we can mold the younger generation in the right direction. So it is definitely a valuable episode. Please do share this with your friends and family so that they too can kind of like ponder on this topic and think about them as well. So once again, thank you so much, guys, for watching Money Matters. And you can tune in for future episodes. You can join our Telegram group. The link is in the description, and I'll keep you guys updated on that. Once again, thank you so much, and have a great Sunday.